It's Wednesday, December 7. In the headlines, 7 zones of special operations extended. Regionally, Cuba to be included in plans for food security in Barbados and Guyana. Internationally, Argentina's vice president is sentenced to 6 years in prison. And in sports, West Indies women penalized. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Minister Andrew Holness on Tuesday morning announced a state of emergency in St. Anne, Clarendon, St. Catherine, St. James, Westmoreland, Hanover, and sections of Kingston and St. Andrew. And Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson says there will be little disruption as possible to normal activities in the areas currently under a state of public emergency.
As we move into the 2022 Christmas season, which is the first Christmas since 2019 that will be without restrictions, the demands on us will increase. The need for greater presence in commercial spaces to prevent robberies, increased public order and traffic management requirements, the large number of permitted events, at the moment it's 1,892 over the season so far, and the occurrence of non-permitted events will create significant strain on our resources.
In making the declaration, Mr. Holness explains that the government, after careful consideration of the recommendations of the security chiefs, decided to advise the Governor General that it was necessary and appropriate to declare the SOEs.
Jamaica is not the only country in the region that is using these exceptional powers, generally defined as a state of public emergency, to treat with the existential threats of gang violence and increasing murders.
SOEs were previously imposed in several of the areas on November 15 but ended on November 29 after the resolutions to facilitate the extensions failed to achieve a 2/3 majority in the Senate. During a state of emergency, the security forces are granted temporary additional powers. These include power to curtail operating hours of businesses, powers of search of a person or building without a warrant, powers of arrest and detention for up to 7 days without a warrant. According to regulations under the SOE legislation, a curfew may also be enforced. This details the times during which persons in the relevant areas are permitted to be out in public. During the hours of a curfew, all persons in these stipulated areas are required to remain indoors. Persons found in breach of the curfew may be detained by security forces. When applicable, details of a curfew are usually outlined during the SOE announcement, but may be provided afterwards. 7 zones of special operations, ZOZOs, now in operation across Jamaica have been extended. The House of Representatives has approved a 60-day extension. That happened on Tuesday. The areas are Denham Town, West Kingston, Norwood and Mount Salem, St. James, Greenwich Town, Parade Gardens and August Town in St. Andrew, and Savannah Lamar in Westmoreland. Resolutions for the extensions were moved by Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang during Tuesday's sitting of the House of Parliament.
And we'll have the amendments to the zones of special operation that was decided in the Joint Select Committee. But part of that will be the report on a 6-monthly basis. Even though we will be introducing new areas in due course in the particular vulnerable areas, I think it is the nature of this particular legislation, the unison in which we approach it, will determine that it's better to report on a 6-monthly basis when we can do effective review.
Resolutions for the extensions were moved by Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang during Tuesday's sitting. According to the Security Minister, the ZOZO Act is a critical component of the suite of modern legislation geared towards creating a framework for sustainable development and community renewal. While the core feature of these zones of special operations is to facilitate the necessary social transformation of these communities, this can only be achieved, he says, on a foundation of security provided by formal security forces. The current ZOZOs will expire on December 22. The Caribbean Examination Council, CXC, has published the dates for its 2023 regional examinations beginning in January. We have more from Carla Thomas Hewitt.
According to the Barbados-based institution, the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate, CSEC, will be held between January 4 to January 31, followed by the Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment on May 4 to 5. The statement says students will sit the Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Exam CAPE from May 8 to June 23, with the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate CSEC again taking place between May 8 to June 16. The Caribbean Certificate of Secondary Level Competence will be held between June 19 to 22. CXC says the 2023 Caribbean Vocational Qualification Assessments will be conducted between April and September, with specific dates to be determined in collaboration with participating ministries of education. Regarding school-based assessments, the Council says stakeholders are also asked to note that concessions for the SBAs will be maintained for 2023 CSEC candidates who commence SBAs during the 2021-2022 academic year. The CSEC examinations have been affected by the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic that led to the closure of schools across the region. For the news on PBCJ, I am Carla Thomas Hewitt.
Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton has instructed the regional health authorities to carry out an audit of all public bathrooms at hospitals, clinics, and health centers. Speaking Tuesday at the official opening of the Chapelton Community Hospital in Clarendon, Dr. Tufton said he wrote to administrators on Monday in light of an expo on the state of public bathrooms at some health facilities.
In the last few weeks or so, we have seen media reports, for example, about bathroom facilities and their upkeep. And I'm the first to accept that management in our institutions have a responsibility to oversee and ensure that our sanitary conveniences and our infrastructure generally is kept in a particular way. This hospital is a beneficiary of the Compassionate Care Program. Program started under this government where we have trained over 4,000 healthcare workers in customer service. We have renovated about 15 different waiting areas in hospitals and health centers, including sanitary conveniences.
The health minister bemoaned the theft of bathroom fixtures and appealed for visitors to health facilities to desist from the practice.
But I want to say, in keeping with that, right to a clean sanitary convenience is a responsibility to take care of it. Because I am not going to devalue the conversation around abuse of our sanitary conveniences and our health infrastructure. You can't put the toilet paper fast enough in the bathroom for somebody to put it in their bag and walk out with it. Or to literally tear the soap dispenser off the wall. Not only just empty it, take off the full dispenser and go out with it. We have to understand that this partnership requires us to protect the assets that are there to care for us.
Meantime, the Chapelton Community Hospital was upgraded and expanded through a public-private partnership. It included extensive rehabilitation of the main building, construction of an ambulance bay, upgrading of a ramp to allow for stretcher access, restoration of the minor operating theatre, and more.
For persons outside of our community, they may see this as a significant investment. Yes, it is the largest investment that has been made in Northern Clarendon in decades, over $300 million. But this is more than just a hospital. The hospital will spur economic development in Chapelton. Over the last several years, we have had a new hardware store, we have a new supermarket, we have renovated the police station, and we're doing work in the constituency. But what was missing was our heartbeat. This hospital, which brought people from all walks of life.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness, who delivered the keynote address at the official reopening ceremony, said that the hospital now boasts a new 20-bed ward and it will serve several communities.
The Chapelton Community Hospital was built to serve the Chapelton community and surrounding communities, including Summerfield, Thompsontown, Moko. Is it Moko? I got it right the first time. I'm just kidding. You know, I know it's Moko. Frankfield, Nine Turns, Effort, Smithville, Blackwoods, and many more within a 20-mile radius of the town.
Time now for the business report.
Close to $200 billion in notes that are currently in circulation are set to be withdrawn over time as the Bank of Jamaica (BOJ) gets ready for the phased introduction of the new bank notes this December. According to the BOJ, the new bank notes are aimed at enhancing security to combat counterfeiting and are also expected to better satisfy the needs of the visually impaired. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Tuesday, December 6, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.82. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $113.90. The pound sterling traded for $188.10, and the euro sold for an average of $158.42. In GSE trading, the GSE index declined by 1,994 points. The junior market index declined by 59 points. The combined market index declined by 2,400 points. And the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 2,524 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 113 stocks, of which 34 advanced, 61 declined, and 18 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Stocks declined for Blue Power Group Limited, CAC 2009.5%, Cumulative Redeemable Preference Shares, and Cargo Handlers Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and CAC 2000 Limited. The overall volume leaders were Jamaica Producers Group Limited, Everything Fresh Limited, and Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 3 million units. In regional stocks, on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, Clico Investment Fund was the volume leader with over 20,000 shares, followed by Calypso Macro Index Fund with a volume of 189 shares being traded. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Goddard Enterprises Limited was the volume leader with over 30,000 shares. They were followed by First Caribbean International Bank, which traded over 9,000 shares. In regional business, in Trinidad and Tobago, insurance company Clico is seeking to expand its business portfolio as it is currently struggling without new business. More in this report.
Since the bailout by government, the company has repaid a total of $17.3 billion, inclusive of interest in the form of shares of companies, securities, cash, bond and properties, with a little over $1 billion still being owed. According to Executive Chair of Clico, Claire Gomez Miller, the company still has over $8 billion in assets and believes it should be commended for almost repaying the entire debt owed to government. However, she says the license prevents Clico from expanding its portfolio, and while this is understandable, it has affected its operations.
So Clico has been struggling without doing new business from 2014 to 2022. It means to say for us to survive going forward, we must start new business. So Clico will be starting new business as soon as we get our license to do so, because we have to remember that our license right now prevents us from doing new business.
Meanwhile, Central Bank Governor Dr. Alvin Hilaire recalled that the central bank took emergency control since 2009 to manage the institution's affairs and explained why it was relinquished on December 1st.
CLICO is still large, as they say, about 20-something% of insurance company assets. But because of the work that I had talked about before, we are comfortable that there will not be the contagion effect on the financial system. The governance is stronger, the order is there, the way of doing business has been regularized, I would call it like that. So we are not concerned that you will have a problem with the financial system.
In international business, Reuters has learned exclusively that Goldman Sachs plans to spend tens of millions of dollars scooping up or taking stakes in beaten down crypto companies after the collapse of the crypto exchange FTX. More in this report.
The massive collapse of multi-billion-dollar crypto exchange FTX has grabbed headlines, spooked investors, and turned its former CEO Sam Bankman-Fried from so-called wonderkin to pariah in just weeks. But among the carnage, at least one major bank sees a buying opportunity: Goldman Sachs. Reuters has learned exclusively that Goldman plans to spend tens of millions of dollars scooping up or taking stakes in beaten-down crypto companies. With investor interest dampened, those companies can now come relatively cheap for those who are still crypto believers, which, apparently, Goldman Sachs is. The bank's head of digital assets told Reuters that Goldman is doing due diligence on a number of different crypto firms, adding that while FTX set back market sentiment, crypto's underlying technology, quote, continues to perform. But rival banks are more skeptical, especially as calls mount for heightened regulation. At a Reuters Next conference on December 1st, Morgan Stanley CEO James Gorman said that while he didn't think cryptocurrencies were going away, he couldn't, quote, put an intrinsic value on it. And HSBC CEO Noel Quinn told a banking conference in London last week he has no plans to expand into crypto trading or investing for retail customers. While the amount Goldman may spend is not large for the Wall Street giant, which earned $21.6 billion last year, its willingness to keep investing in the sector amid the shakeout shows it senses a long-term opportunity.
In market data for oil edged up after Brent crude earlier fell close to its lowest in 2022 as hopes of higher Chinese demand and concern about Russian supply arising from tanker delays in Turkish waters offset recession fears. Brent crude was up 20 cents at $79.55 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude added 22 cents to $74.47. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, Cuba is going to be included in Barbados' plans to reduce the island's food import bill and the cost of food for Barbadians. The disclosure was made by Prime Minister Mia Mottley on the sidelines of the CARICOM Cuba Summit being hosted by Barbados.
In our case, you've heard us talk about the Barbados-Guyana Food Terminal. We're at the stage now where the business plans are being reviewed, and therefore we expect in 2023 to be able to see that construction start and that be able to help facilitate. Why is it important? It's because we also need the equipment in order to do the kinds, and you saw what we did with the International Food Center opening last week. You need the equipment to have the level of agro-processing so that Barbadians are not only forced to access products imported based on our small population, but by the reason of our being able to get involved in agro-processing, we're in a position to ensure that more is available to the country, and therefore the prices can drop in a way that is sensible and realistic. You've got to remember that most countries did not have the structure for production to meet the national need. It's ironic that we're talking about this because 25 by 25 actually started in this building in the room below. Sharon will tell you in September or October 2018 when Barbados put it on the table in a regional agricultural ministers meeting, that it was ultimately taken up in 2021. We lost 3 years before it was taken up. So this is going to be a work in progress going forward, and you might even argue that 25% reduction is not going to be sufficient given where the world is now with respect to all of the other challenges that are compromising people's ability to get access to food.
Cuba, which has been a CARICOM partner for 50 years now, will also be benefiting from the Guyana-led food security plans, as Guyana is leading a major food security plan helping countries to grow more food and slash the region's exorbitant food import bill. The CARICOM chairman and president of Suriname made the announcement on Tuesday.
Our cooperation in many areas has been extended, particularly in health, and President Díaz-Canel.
Presidente Díaz-Canel les hablará un poco más acerca de este tema. También hemos propuesto una estrecha
area of agriculture, including the establishment of a food terminal to provide a consistent supply of food items to Cuba, as CARICOM moves to increase its production to meet its 25% reduction of food imports by 2025. Cuba has also been invited to participate in the CARICOM Ministerial Task Force spearheading this initiative. Cuba has also offered great assistance in the area of disaster management as we both face the existential threat posed by climate change. These areas proposed are of benefit of the community, and we look forward to implementing these arrangements.
In Grenada, come early 2023, consumers will be paying a little less on some food products.
With the continued rise in cost of living being felt globally, government is putting measures in place, as Prime Minister Honorable Dickon Mitchell highlighted, to shield citizens from the devastating impact of high prices, especially on food, fuel and other necessities. Effective February 2023, a number of food and other items will be exempted from VAT, with a review to be conducted by December of 2023. That announcement came Monday during Prime Minister Mitchell's budget delivery.
Items include 1. Soya chunks, 2. Veggie patties, 3. Olive oil, 4. Canola oil, 5. Soybean oil, 6. Sunflower oil, 7. Coconut oil, 8. Red kidney beans, 9. Black eyed peas, 10. Lentil peas, 11. Hand sanitizers, 12. Adult diapers, 13 baby diapers, 14 toothpaste, 15 toilet paper, 16 bathing soap, 17 laundry soap, 18 sanitary napkins, and 19 condoms.
The exemption of VAT on these items is also aligned with government's policy to support healthy eating and lifestyles. The Prime Minister explained how these measures will be supported.
For the cost of living relief measures and to support our strategic priorities, we will implement the following. Effective February 1, 2023, increase the excise tax on alcohol from $1.10 and $4.40 per litre to $1.50 and $5 per litre, and the excise tax on cigarettes from 105% to 200%. Effective February 1, 2023, Mr. Speaker, increase the VAT on carbonated beverages, soft drinks, sodas, and drinks with high sugar content from 15% to 20%.
Water and electricity will also realize some adjustments.
Effective February 1, 2023, reinstate the environmental levy rate of $5 and $10 on electricity consumption as follows. Between 100 and 150 kilowatt hours, a mere $5, and over 150 kilowatt hours, a mere $10. Effective February 1, 2023, apply an environmental levy on water usage as follows. Between 2,800 and 5,500 gallons, $5, and over $5,500, $10. Thank you. Effective February 1, 2023, Mr. Speaker, institute a no printing of more than 5 pages policy across the entire public service.
The question of who is ultimately to blame for the deaths of 4 men in Perea Fuel Trading Company Limited on February 25, 2022 was the focus of the Commission of Inquiry on Tuesday. Tyrion Brown Campbell reports.
Paria Fuel Trading Company Limited's Queen's Counsel Gilbert Peterson grilled LMCS Limited's Health, Safety and Environment Specialist Ahmad Ali about the company's responsibility for the fatal incident.
And you realize that the removal of the barriers is the trigger that caused this event while we are here today?
I'm not going to say that, no.
You don't consider the removal of the barriers resulted in this?
I don't want to say that, no.
Mr. Peterson noted that there were at least 2 areas of danger that the HSE specialist did not highlight in his outline of the project.
Always make sure all back pressures or test pressures have been completely released and that there are no forces working against the pipe plug before deflating. If there is still back/test pressure against the plug, when it deflates, it can shoot out of the pipe like a project.
The other area was the Delta P, which Mr. Peterson says was not taken into account in Mr. Ali's calculations for the job.
In international news, Vice President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, one of Argentina's most powerful politicians, has been sentenced to 6 years in prison and a lifetime ban from holding public office. She has been found guilty of corruption in a $1 billion fraud case linked to public contracts. Al Jazeera has that report.
These are supporters of Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, who came to the federal court building in Buenos Aires to protest against Argentina's judiciary. Kirchner was sentenced to 6 years in prison and given a lifetime ban on holding public office after being found guilty of corruption. It's the first time an Argentinian vice president has been convicted of a crime whilst in office. Luis de Lía says Kirchner is a victim of political persecution.
What they want to do is get her out of politics, in a good way or a bad way. They failed to kill her, and now they have this option.
3 months ago, Kirchner was the target of an assassination attempt when a man pulled the trigger of his handgun inches from her face as she greeted supporters. The gun failed to fire. On Tuesday, a panel of 3 judges found Kirchner guilty of aggravated fraud.
Cristina Elizabeth Fernández de Kirchner is sentenced to 6 years imprisonment, life disqualification from holding public office, legal accessories, and the cost of the proceedings because she is criminally responsible for the offense of fraudulent administration to the detriment of the public.
Kirchner is accused of directing millions of dollars of public works contracts to a family friend. Prosecutors say they have found dozens of irregularities in public works contracts in the province of Santa Cruz, where the Kirchner family originally comes from. The former president denies all charges, accusing the tribunal in charge of a political witch hunt and serving the interests of the opposition.
This is much simpler. It's not lawfare. It's not a judiciary party. It's not a parallel state and mafia. It's a judicial mafia.
Cristina Fernández de Kirchner was Argentina's president for 8 years, between 2007 and 2015. She's now this country's vice president. She's a divisive figure in this country. While there are many who continue to support her, there are many others who would like to see her in prison.
Kirchner is expected to appeal against the court's decision. Despite her conviction, she has congressional immunity and is unlikely to head to jail anytime soon.
In sports, West Indies women lost the opening match of the 3-match ODI series versus England on Sunday, and now they have lost some match fees from that encounter.
A release from the International Cricket Council indicated that the West Indies have been fined 40% of their match fee for maintaining a slow over rate against England in the first one-day international of their ICC Women's Championship Series in Antigua. Donovan Hales of the Emirates ICC International Panel of Match Referees imposed the sanction after the West Indies were ruled to be 2 overs short of the target after time allowances were taken into consideration. In accordance with Article 2.22 of the ICC Code of Conduct for players and player support personnel, which relates to minimum over rate offences, players are fined 20% of their match fee for every over their side failed to bowl in their allotted time. Captain Haley Matthews pled guilty to the offence and accepted the proposed sanction, so there was no need for a formal hearing.
And that's the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks so much for watching.